Before I start, I have to announce that we do record all meetings in Lower Frederick. And that's done basically so that we can do minutes. And the board had asked me to basically read the following. At the beginning of the meeting, it says that It says township meetings are recorded for the purpose of preparing the minutes, and the recording is destroyed 6 months after the minutes are approved. So again, thank you for coming tonight. So this is a meeting of our comprehensive plan committee. This is a plan that's a group that is trying to establish a long-range plan for our township. Its official name that we're working under is called Lower Frederick 2040. And the idea here is that we are trying to get broad input from our community so that we can come up with a comprehensive plan that will sort of guide us and our elected officials and our staff going forward. So basically it's supposed to transcend, hopefully, me and pretty much everybody else who's been involved in the township. So tonight we have a couple of orders of business. First is before we get to our presentations, and then Crystal will do an introduction. My name is Chuck Yeiser. John Miklos is our planner from the county. Ernie Schmidt, Harper Pam Wright, and Crystal Gilchrist. We're the steering committee for this group. So a little bit of business before we get started. I need a motion to approve our minutes from August of 2019. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Aye. So our minutes, now that we've approved them, they'll be on the township website within the next couple of days. If people want to look, we do actually have space on our township website for comprehensive plan. A little bit about the agenda tonight. So we have two speakers. Also, I want to welcome, we have a new planner. Our old planner, Julia Detweiler, left the Montgomery County Planning Commission in August. We do have a new planner who's with us. Tonight's his first meeting with us is John Miklos. I want to welcome John. And, a little bit of indoctrination about our township and the development, a little bit of history. We also have Eric Jarrell in the back from Montgomery County Planning, who is working with John and bringing him up to speed on development projects and things that are going on in our township. So a little bit about our agenda, just briefly. We're going to have two presentations. We'll have a discussion after the presentations, and then after the presentations are done, we have a little bit of business to do, and that is we are currently working on a focus group, and our focus area, I should say, which is natural resources and open space. So tonight is supposedly the second meeting on that subject, and we're going to try to, as a group, draw our conclusions and summaries so that we can take that good information back and start to incorporate that into the open space plan, which down the road, once we get it into a draft form, then we can all start to review it, fine tune it, and see whether it says what we want it to say. So there's two parts tonight. The first part of the presentation, and then after the presentations and the question and answer is done, then we're going to have a session where we're going to try to take all this good information from this month, last month, and boil that down to something we can move forward with. So with that said, I want to introduce Crystal Gilchrist, who will introduce our speakers.
Good evening, everyone. Again, thank you all for coming out. This is a great crowd. There have been a lot of conversations over the last couple of months at the municipal meetings, the Board of Supervisors meetings, about open space and open space issues. And at the same time, we had an open house as part of the comprehensive plan process back in June, and we asked a lot of questions about what people liked about the community, what they wanted to preserve, and how they wanted the community to look in the future. And one of the top-ranked responses to every question we asked had to do with rural character, our open space, our green spaces, our agricultural spaces. People wanted to see those to remain part of our community long into the future, rather than allowing us to just become another community covered in suburban sprawl. So The comprehensive plan took on the open space and natural resources conversation as the first part of our effort, and the timing is really good right now for us to have two guest speakers who are going to talk to us about a couple different things. They're going to talk about the challenges of an open space program, the successes, the costs, how to move it forward. I have known Kate Harper since she was a planning commission member at Lower Gwynedd. Our boys went to Cub Scouts together, so we've known each other a long time. Kate has been a proponent of open space at Lower Gwynedd. She helped establish the Montgomery County Open Space Task Force when it was active. And she's been a state legislator for 16 years, 18 years, sorry. And in all that time, she has always remained a strong supporter of open space programs around the county and around the state. I've also known Jack Stefferud from Natural Lands Trust for quite a long time. He has been working with all kinds of communities for the last 25 years, helping them establish and preserve or establish priorities for open space, and then implementing programs to preserve space where they choose to. Kate is going to take a broad perspective tonight. She's going to talk about the municipal perspective on things, her perspective from maybe the state legislator. She's going to give us that information. And then Jack is going to talk nuts and bolts, how these things actually work on the ground, what needs to happen, what the fallacies are about what it can do and what it can't do. I would like to ask everyone to hold your questions until they're both done, because I know they have lots they want to share, and they may actually answer some of your questions as they go through their presentations. We will have lots of time afterwards to open the floor up for conversation, questions and answers, and I'm sure they can answer any question you can put to them. They have been doing this a long time. I have great confidence in their knowledge of this subject. So I'm going to let Kate go first. Kate, take it away, Kate.
This is a great crowd. I'm very pleased to see this many people here. It means that you care about your community and that you're here to make sure that the comprehensive plan reflects your views, and I think that that's admirable. Thank you for coming out. Let's see if this works, right? Technology's not my best. Yes? Okay. So here's what I'm going to do. And I did bring a handout, so don't worry about it. But I learned a long time ago, if you give the handouts out, no one listens to you. So, okay, so I'll give them out later. I want to talk to you about what I've learned over the years about saving open space. And it did start when I was a planning commission member in Lower Gwynedd Township a long time ago. But at that time, Lower Gwynedd was a little bit like you are now. It was mostly large estates, horse farms, and big beautiful houses and things like that. And we really weren't ready when development came. It came all in a rush. You'd have, the zoning board wouldn't meet for months at a time, and then suddenly the zoning board was meeting every month, and we had plans with hundreds of units, houses of some sort or another, every month to deal with. So it came in a rush, and if you can look up there, you're going to see statistically, during the 20 years between 1980 and 2000, the county's population increased by 100,000 people. And in the next 10 years, 50,000, and I'm sure the 10 years since, more than 50,000. Also, during that time, the way people live in Montgomery County has changed. It used to be that they lived close to the city and commuted to the city to work, okay? But over those years, the commuting pattern changed. Now people live in one suburban community and commute to another to go to work. In addition, there are as many people coming out of the city who work in King of Prussia and down 202 both ways that are going into the city to work. Montgomery County has become a huge employment center, and people want to commute here to work, but they also want to live here. So the population just keeps increasing. And you have a very beautiful community, but it's not going to be the same. Can you still keep it beautiful? Can you keep open spaces and protection of natural resources? Yes, you can do that if you plan, and I see that you're here to plan for that, so all that's good. But it's not going to happen on its own, and if you do nothing, it's not going to happen at all. And that's one of the things that we learned in Lower Gwinnett, because it went from overnight. It went from these large, beautiful estates to housing developments, Toll Brothers, Cutler, all kinds of things, curative amendments, everything. It went overnight to being fully developed. And when I was there as a planning commission member, I said, should we buy some parks? Because we had 2.5 acres that the Ingersolls had donated for a ball field. 2.5 acres. It was the Little League field. Okay? And the supervisor said to me, everybody has a big backyard. Which was literally true. But guess what you can't do in a big backyard? You can't play team sports. You can't even practice Little League, soccer, lacrosse, all those things that people were going to want in the ensuing 20 years that we weren't expecting, or that the supervisors at the time weren't expecting, and it was coming, and we weren't ready for it. In addition, of course, we had land that had been in the comprehensive plan for 30 years as desirable for protection. Most of the time it was because it was along the Wissahickon Creek, which runs right through our township, okay? And it was in the comprehensive plan. I know you have an open space plan, and you've been working on this for years, and I saw you updated it in 2015, which is great, you know? But in Lower Gwinnett at the time, nobody did anything about it. So where I learned an awful lot was saving the Penland Woods. Okay, what's the Penland Woods? It's a 77-acre tract of land that is bounded by the Wissahickon Creek on 2 sides. It was in the comprehensive plan as desirable to be preserved. It was behind the historic village of Penland, didn't have a good access in, required a bridge, as a matter of fact. And it was just sitting there, fallow, for a long time. And everybody was using it. We rode horses on it, we walked on it, they hunted on it, everybody was just using it because it was just sitting there doing nothing. And then a developer put a plan into the township to build 108 houses. And everybody went crazy. And we learned a lot from that experience. But what I point out up there is, during the time it took us to buy it, which was 7 years, we offered to buy it. The developer didn't want to sell. Rather than get the fair market value of the land at the time, he wanted to develop it and make the profit that comes from developing the land. So he wasn't interested in selling it. Townships do have the power of eminent domain, but at the time, it was not clear that you could use it for open space. You could use it for roads, you could use it for sidewalks, you could use it for sewer pipes. It wasn't clear you could use it for open space, okay? You could use it for ball fields, but not necessarily for just preserving the land in its natural state. And we actually had to get the second-class township code amended on the way to make it very clear that we could do that when one of our neighboring townships lost a case where they tested the theory and they lost. And during the time that we were fighting over it, the price went from $650,000, which was our appraisal, to $4.3 million. Exactly right. And, we had a hard time putting all the money together to do it. Eventually, we saved it. Now, we're about to celebrate the 25th anniversary of the Penland Woods Park. And why are we celebrating it? Because I was talking to a younger resident, and I said to her, she said to me, I gotta go, I gotta pick my son up, he's at Penland Woods. I said, is he playing soccer? She said, he is, and I gotta go get him, it's time. I said, it's been 25 years since we saved the Penland Woods. And she said to me, save it for what? She had no idea. So we're going to celebrate it this year because it could have been 108 houses. What it is 55 acres of creeks and wetlands and forests and just open space with nothing else on it, and 22 acres of active recreation, which we felt we had to do both because the township needed it, for the people moving in, whose kids wanted to play Little League and soccer and all those things. We had no place for them to play. And also because the price of it was so high that we realized we had to have a better or bigger use of the property to justify the expense. So, He can't save it all. That's why I was really glad to see that you have an open space plan and that you updated your basis. It is not realistic to think that you can save every undeveloped parcel, no matter how gorgeous it is. It's just not realistic. You don't have enough money. No one has enough money, okay? Not even if you pass a tax, you won't have enough money. The other thing that happened is, while the cost of Pembroke Woods was rising, all the property values around Lower Gwinnett were rising as well. When development comes in, the land becomes more valuable. Why does development come in? All kinds of reasons. Mostly because people want to live there, or you have more people who want to live there than you have existing housing stock to put them in. Or you improve your sewer plant, and now people can have public sewer instead of septic systems, so they don't need as much space. Or you improve your water facilities so that now you have plenty of drinking water, which is a good thing. Good sewage facilities, drinking water, those are very good things, okay? But it allows for more dense development that would be possible otherwise. And then when it comes in a rush. So you need to choose the land that you want to save. And then let's talk about different ways to do it. And when I say save it, preserve it, I'm talking about both public use and private use. Okay, so let's go talk about that, the ways to save it. There are many ways to save land. You're probably familiar with this. In fact, there's probably already land in your township that are saved under one of these methods. The Farmland Preservation Program is an excellent program. For every dollar that either a county or local government puts up, the state matches it with $2. So here's how that works. A farmer with a productive farm, and horses are considered a productive farm. That was a change the legislature made while I was there, okay? Because so many people in Chester County, ironically, were pasturing horses for our Pennsylvania racetracks. So that is a productive farm, or the usual type of farm that you're probably familiar with. What happens is the farmer still owns the land, but he sells off his right to develop the land. A farmland preservation easement is recorded against his property. He's supposed to be paid the difference between the fair market value as developable and the value that's left after you sell off the development rights. I don't think you're going to make a ton of money on farmland preservation, but it does pay a substantial sum for a large property. You can actually increase the county's putting it on the list and moving it up if your township is willing to make the match. Remember I told you it was $2 for every $1? In townships that are willing to put some money towards the farmland preservation, that raises the ranking of the farm, and it makes it more likely that that farm is going to get preserved. So the farm would still be there. It would still be used for farming. The farmer would deal with it the way he or she has always dealt with it. The difference would be, I think they could get one more house, but other than that, not subdividable. Okay? And it's permanent. Unlike Clean and Green, the tax preference programs that you may also be familiar with, which are not permanent. They give you a lower tax assessment for your promise not to develop it over a course of years, but it doesn't last forever. The farmland preservation easement is in perpetuity, and it does last forever, perpetuity being a long time, you know, those of us who like open space say. But it will, that's a really great program, and I think it would work pretty well in Lower Frederick if you have parcels of land that you want to keep it open farming, and you have a farmer who's willing to do it. You can't force them, you have to ask them. Second thing is, and I'm sure my friend here will talk more about it, you can either donate or someone could purchase a conservation easement. Back when the Montgomery County Open Space Program was fully funded and spending money more than it has been in recent years, you could buy conservation easements. Now most of the conservation easements we see are donated. How many of you know Drew Lewis's Lilliput Farm, which I passed on the way up here? Is it not still gorgeous? It is. Drew donated a conservation easement on that before he sold it, also in perpetuity. So in perpetuity, every 6 successive owner is going to not be able to develop that land, and it will remain open. I think that's Lower Southford, isn't it? Is that Lower Frederick? No, it's Lower Southford. I was trying to figure out where the divider was. It's close. Lower Southford, but it's close, so some of you know that. That's an example of a landowner donating a conservation easement. It's also in perpetuity, and they would normally donate it to somebody who would take care of it and steward it, make sure that a subsequent owner doesn't try to build something on it, and that would be someone like Natural Lands Trust. They do that all over the Delaware Valley and beyond, all over Pennsylvania, or just out to the Cumberland areas. Mostly southeastern PA, but I know you have some out in the middle of the state. And NLT, Natural Lands Trust job is to steward the land, to go every year at least, and to look and make sure that the owner's not doing something that he shouldn't be doing with it. It's never the first owner. The first owner is the guy who put it in conservation easement, and they always want to keep it that way, but as it gets sold, the easement goes along with it. It runs with the land. And so a subsequent owner, second, third, fourth owner may just think he can't subdivide, but not be aware that the easement has other restrictions on what you can do on waterways that are on the ground, or trees, or things like that. So Natural Lands Trust, or other conservancies, will take on the responsibility of stewarding the land. You know, making sure that it doesn't violate the easement and it doesn't get lost. Another way would be an outright purchase. Ultimately, that's what we ended up doing with the Penland Woods. We had a friendly condemnation. After 7 years of litigation, it wasn't easy to get to a friendly condemnation, but you know, eventually we reached a deal, and we were able to buy it. What money did we use? Any money we could find. Okay. Now, we had money that the township had been saving from its real estate taxes. Ironically, it didn't have an open space tax, although it was prepared to raise the millage to fund a bond, which was the bulk of it. We also had money from the Department of Conservation and Natural Resources, and, as Crystal pointed out, we had one of the first slugs of money to come out of the Montgomery County Open Space Program. And that was very valuable to get to the number that we needed. We ultimately borrowed, I think, $1 million for 20 years. And we were fortunate that, you know, interest rates were low and the borrowing costs were not onerous, and we were able to do that. So you can buy it. The last thing would be eminent domain. You can't, to the best of my knowledge, there's no way to do an eminent domain on an easement. You have to buy the fee. I'm a lawyer, that makes sense to me. You guys are not, so I'll explain what that means. A conservation easement, as I said, is really a restriction on the owner's rights. You can't subdivide, you can't build outside the building envelope, you can't put that over the creek. Those are the restrictions that are in a conservation easement. The fee is the ownership of the land. You know, you buy all of it and all of the rights that go along with owning land, like your homes. Let's say you own an acre, you can do pretty much whatever you want with it as long as it's in accordance with the zoning, it doesn't violate some state